All right, so there he is. Okay, Joe's just joining us. And so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Um, so let's just go ahead and get started with introductions. First, thanks everyone for joining us today. And you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure, I'll start. I'm Angela. I'm a fifth grade teacher in the western suburbs of Chicago, and I'm really excited to be here tonight to explore some of the new features of Formative.
Nice. Joe, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Is the sound a little bit better?
It's still a little fuzzy, but I think we'll manage.
All right. I'm Joe Marquez. I'm an eighth grade science teacher in Clovis, California.
Nice. Awesome. And looks like we got our first viewer joining us, so uh, good to see you there. We're just introducing ourselves. And lastly, uh, my name's David, and the current community manager at Formative. And before that, I taught special education in New York. So super excited to show everyone out there um, some of the new updates we have. And so I think just to get started, we're gonna, for our newer viewers, or newer users, I should say, we're gonna go ahead and just show Formative in its current version on a high level. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. And Joe and Angela, at any time, feel free to jump in here. But basically, I'm just going to show this vine right here on our homepage. Can you guys see that? Joe and Angela?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's on the side a little bit, but if I zoom in a little more, basically, with Formative, you can create an assignment from any internet-connected device and collect live responses. And the awesome part about that is you can see all these responses coming in for one question, right? And so as a teacher, you can jump in the moment and give students instant written feedback or scores. And another way that teachers really use it is they'll actually project the live student responses and allow students to lead the conversation rather than the teacher. And so you can actually hide those student names, and that way students start to focus more on the content rather than who did it. And I just love that last part because as a former special educator, I really just wanted to highlight every student and shift the culture from being about right or wrong to just really exploring the different strategies and misconceptions every student has. So students feel comfortable with mistakes and growing from there. So did you guys want to, I guess, Angela and Joe, did you want to share just how, I guess, the role Formative has had in your classroom?
Sure, I can start. So like I said, I'm a fifth grade teacher in the western suburbs of Chicago, and I initially started using Formative in math just because that seemed to me like the most seamless transition. So essentially we operate on an in-class flip, and my kiddos get a new Formative every single day after they take their notes. And what we do basically, or the way that I use it in class, is that all of their in-class work is done on a Formative, and I'm able to see their results, like David said, live on my device. So I can immediately pull groups that way. So as I start to see students deviating from the content or not really understanding, grasping the concept, I'm able to flex group in that way. Once we meet and I feel like they have a better understanding, I send them back to their seat and I can pull a different group, and I'm able to check in on student A who came to the first group and see if he has grasped the concept or hasn't. So that's one way I've used it in math, but then we've also branched into reading as well, doing upload and transform types of questions where they're reading passages and annotating and answering comprehension questions on there, doing task cards, a multitude of different things. We've used it in writing, in the way that David had said, hiding our names and talking about like topic sentences and paragraph structure and things like that. So it really is a cross-content tool that can be utilized in the classroom, at least within the 5th grade classroom. And I know many teachers at the primary level who are utilizing it as well. And it is by far the best thing I've ever done for my class, because my students use it and love it, but they know why they're using it and what the purpose of it is and how it helps them and how it helps me. So it's great.
So, yeah. Angela, thank you so much for sharing and just saying hi to, I see we have a couple more people joining us. So at any point, feel free to, I'm just going to, you can see my screen. On the side of your screen right here, you should be able to pose questions. So it looks like Lisa said, I can see all of you, but you can't see me or hear me. So yeah, with this format, basically, you can watch, you can lurk if you want, and you can throw in thoughts and questions, and we'll be sure to address them as we go along. And of course, we can follow up face-to-face after the webinar. Basically, you can just use this side panel like Lisa to ask questions or thoughts, and we'll be sure to answer them as we go along. Joe, you want to go ahead and just share how you use Formative?
Sure. Can you hear me better now with my microphone?
Yeah, I can hear you. If anybody has difficulty out there, be sure to let us know, and maybe we can call in Joe.
All right. Well, I'm an 8th grade science teacher, and one of the hardest things to do is when you have a student or a group of students working on a laboratory report. I would go around and I'd monitor the room and I'd ask each group, do you guys understand what you're doing? Do you guys understand what we're looking for? Are you guys understanding the questions? And of course, 8th grade students are always going to say, yeah, we got it. And with being a junior high, I have 7 periods, 40 students apiece. So that's going to be well in the 150, 160 student range. That's a lot of papers to go over. So I wouldn't go over it right away. And then so I take all of these labs and go over them over the weekend. And I would find out they have no idea what they're doing. So after a week has gone by and having to go over content that they haven't spent the whole week looking at, it was a mess. And so I was looking for a tool that I could use where I can instantly inspect my students' work to see if they actually were grasping the concept. And I stumbled across Formative, and I found that a lot of the reasons my students don't understand what's going on is because they don't know how to express themselves with their explanations. So what Formative has allowed me to do is reach what I call the inspect, redirect, and make correct model in my class. So as my students are working using the dashboard, I can instantly see my students who are really giving great answers, students who are giving good answers, and students who are giving unacceptable answers. And I was finding that if I was able to show students why an answer was unacceptable and what they needed to add to make it good, they would do that. And then if I showed the students what was a good answer and what they needed to add to make it great, they would do that. And so we were able to take students' answers who were unacceptable and turn them good, and turn them from good to turn them to great. So we're over the year, I mean, it didn't happen in one day, of course, but over the course of the year, I was getting great answers instantly because my students were able to see on the board what an unacceptable answer looked like, what a good answer looked like, and what a great answer looked like. And because of that modeling of student-given answers in immediate time with immediate feedback, we were able to, over time, be able to model what a great answer was. And so by the end of the year, using Formative, my students were giving great answers to their labs rather than just good answers to their labs.
Oh, man. It sounds a lot better at the end, Joe. Notice that. Did you notice that, Angela?
Yeah, I did. It definitely cleared up at the end there. It wasn't as broken up. So.
Oh, thank you. Oh, well, I don't know what's going on with this computer.
No worries. But just Angela and Joe, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that really gets at how Formative, you can create a learning opportunity with it, and then just 2 ways you can use it is you collect these responses for grouping, flexible grouping as Angela mentioned, And then you can really just break down the barriers to participation, like Joe mentioned, to really help students improve their work. So that's formative in its current I guess, version. And so our next step is broader than just an individual learning opportunity like you're seeing here and seeing those live responses come in. We want to make it so that educators can track student growth across assignments rather than just within one assignment. So very soon, and I'm going to go ahead and share another screen with you guys. Feel free to ask questions at any time. Joe and Angela, can you guys see this?
Yep. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
You guys are more like just litmus tests for this for this. But anyways, so with our new version, and some of our current users will notice that the format is a little different. But basically, we're building an assignment here. And what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to tag each question you're creating to a standard or skill. And what that'll allow you to do, you can see here that's where you do this. What that'll allow you to do is you'll be able to track every student's progress on a standard across assignments. So what we're seeing here is students in a class, and then we're seeing standards that you've assessed them on. And so with tagging, let's say, 50 questions to this first standard here, we can automatically show you how that student has progressed on that standard across those questions. And eventually, the plan is you'll be able to actually click into, let's say Jenny Adams, she's not doing too well on that first standard, but if we click in there, we'll be able to see her first try to her most recent try to see that growth over time. Same thing here, you'll be able to filter down to one standard, and instead of seeing all these standards across the board, you'll be able to see this was Jenny's first try to her most recent try, and you can see that growth over time. So really, our next version is about just taking those individual learning opportunities and those great things you can do there with grouping, instant feedback, and informing your teaching. We're taking that to the next level by allowing you to just see how students are doing over time, so you can plan out the next day, the next week, and improve your teaching and your students' learning. So I guess once again, if you have any questions or comments here, we're seeing everything you're putting in, and we'll be sure to address them within the next couple of minutes. But Joe and Angela, I was wondering if you could once again just share, like, just why you guys are excited for the new edition.
Yeah, I'll jump in first again. So obviously I love Formative, love everything about it, but this new version is going to really take everything to the next level. Coming from an SBR point of view, we are a standards-based grading district. We do use the Illinois State Standards, Common Core State Standards. But just strictly from that point of view, putting the I can statement that I already have on the formatives as the title and aligning those directly with the actual standard to be able to track and show parents, show admin, you know, just have for yourself is so great. And not necessarily looking at the percentage, but as you can see those colored dots, seeing that, okay, well, Jenny on standard, you know, A1 wasn't quite there yet, but as we went into the next question where I reassessed A1, she kind of got it, and then I'm able to see that growth in that way, and that's going to be extremely helpful to have a visual consistently across standards and across students, because right now you do have the visual where you can kind of see, you know, okay, Jenny got it, Jordan didn't on the current version of Formative, but with this aligning standards to it, it's just going to make everything much more seamless. And at least from a 5th grade point of view, my kids use the I can statement. They know the standard. They're aware of SBR. They rate themselves. So this will be good for self-assessment as well as teacher assessment.
Awesome. Go ahead, Joe.
For me, the power of this is really in the fact that when you grade a single assignment, you have a student that may be getting maybe 3 out of the 5 standards, and they're still getting a good grade on the assignment. And then over the course of the year, they still may be missing those 2 standards consistently, but they're still getting a good grade in your class. So you really don't take the time to look deeper at the 2 standards they may not be getting, especially if you have a lot of students in your class. With this tracking system, it allows you to see the growth of every standard over the course of the year rather than just the growth of a student per assignment. So I really see this as a new way of actually grading our students. Right? We're not grading our students whether they completed an assignment or not. We're grading them based upon, are they getting that single standard? Are they achieving mastery of that single standard as the year is going on? So I really see this as an opportunity for our students to really gain growth by allowing our students to be graded based upon, are they gaining in the standards over a period of assignments rather than just grading them in A, B, or C based on singular assignments. So I really see this as an opportunity for our students to really grow and become great students over the course of the year rather than just be saying, I have an A in the class. So I really see this opportunity that Formative is giving us and the students just a better way of truly grading our students based on what they know and what they've grown to know rather than based on how they did on a single particular assignment.
Absolutely, like genuine student learning happening instead of just I'm looking to get an A, I'm looking to get a B. Genuine student learning will be happening, and that's and growth. So
absolutely. Yeah. What I see is, when a student sees that they failed an assignment, they may get kind of torn down a notch, like I didn't do very well. When you give them the opportunity over a course of many assignments to be graded upon on different standards, they really see that, if they didn't do so well on 2 standards on a single assignment, they still have an opportunity to get a good grade in the class if they elevate those 2 standards on the next assignment. So it's more on the course of I can get a good grade during the course of the year or the semester rather than I can get a good grade based on singular assignments that's giving out in a particular day.
Definitely, guys. I just got to echo what Joe said as well. Just as a former special educator, I was in a co-taught classroom, and it wasn't just about supporting students that were struggling with certain standards, but helping all students and pushing their learning forward. So the students with the A's for the marking period, I think this tracker is just going to be awesome for making sure we don't just make that surface level just saying they have an A for this marking period, they're doing great, but really taking a deeper look at how every student is doing and really pushing their learning forward, helping them do that. So.
And David, if I can step in for 1 second there, at the end of the year, sometimes I look through the grades and I'll see a student who has an A, and then I'll look at the name and I'll be like, really, that student has an A? I mean, like I've graded their work and I've given them the grades, and based upon the pointage value, yes, they have gotten an A in my class, but based upon the substantive value, I really look back and go, really, should they have gotten an A in my class? So I see the ability of grading based upon standards to really elevate those students who really deserve an A to get an A, and those who are, deserving of a B to figure out how they can really elevate their grade to getting that A. So grading based upon standards rather than grading based upon assignments truly gives an actual value of a grade and how they progress, rather than our current system of a 90% is an A and an 80% is a B.
Definitely. Just want to pause here really quick for everyone watching and everyone who's going to check this out later. What's awesome about this Google Hangout on Air is you can drop in whenever you want, and after we're done with the Google Hangout, you'll be able to re-watch this, and you see people are asking questions, you'll be able to actually click on them and just see those clips of us answering them. And so feel free to drop in or come back later. But we're going to go ahead and just start just talking to you guys and responding to your questions. So Joe and Angela, can you guys see the questions on the right, or is it just me?
I don't see any questions. Is there something I have to click?
On the left-hand side of the screen, you might see a panel, and then there's a button that says Q&A. If you click on that, they should pop up.
So
there it is. Perfect.
So yeah, so we're gonna start by just answering questions about the tracker itself. So we got a lot of questions like that. So we're starting at the bottom here. We can start with Holly for sure. Here we go. So I'm selecting Holly's question. So Holly's asking, and let me know if you guys can't see these questions, but everyone should be able to see them. Our school makes our own standards. Could we put those into the program? And so with this next version, the first thing we want to do is we want to add in the Common Core and next generation science standards. Just because a lot of schools are using them, and we want to serve as many teachers as possible. But from there, we're working with this project to add other sets of standards in over time, so throughout the fall. And with that, we also want teachers to be able to add their own custom standards and skills as well. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it to answer your question, Holly. Let me know if I didn't quite answer it. But really, it's about making sure we have those major sets of standards and first adding in the state standards over time. And with custom tagging, like putting in your own specific standard, we can work with you on that. And so, let's see. Did you guys find another good one that we can respond to right now?
I think the question with Lisa about what the different colored dots mean.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a quick clarification question.
Yeah, that'd be a good question to answer.
Yep. Awesome. Well, if you guys want to, does anybody want to answer that? Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and select it.
Joe, if you want to jump in too, basically, I think it was touched on by Caitlin in reference to the color. So yes, from my understanding and the way that it would be utilized in my classroom and the way that it's utilized on the current version of Formative is that you can kind of give a scale on the current version. I'll speak about the current version. You can give a scale of points. So the way that I assign Formative is 1, 2, 3, or 4, because that's just how our school's SBR system works. And then a 1 would be a red, a 2 would be in the yellow, a 3 would be like yellow-green, and then a 4 would be green. So that, assumingly so, would be what these colors indicate in this new version as well. And I don't know if, Joe, you want to touch a little bit more on that?
Yeah, for me, the yellow has always represented unacceptable, and I have to clarify when I use the word unacceptable, because when I'm talking to a third grade teacher and they hear that I'm telling a student their work is unacceptable, they go, well, I could never tell my students that. So when I explain to teachers what unacceptable means, it means at the current course of the school year, the student should understand what I'm looking for in an answer. And so the answer that they have currently given me is not acceptable by our standards. So when I say unacceptable, it doesn't mean horrible work. It means you haven't met the criteria that we as a class have determined is acceptable work. So yellow to me is unacceptable, meaning they haven't reached the criteria of an acceptable answer. Good means they've given us the correct answer. I'm sorry, the yellow means they've given us the correct answer, but they haven't given us a great answer. They haven't really explained their answer to a fullest extent that they would need to fulfill our classroom requirement for green. And then green would mean great, great work. They've given me the correct answer. They've explained how they've come up with the correct answer. And so that's how I do my yellow, my red, yellow, and green. Unacceptable, good, and then great.
Yeah. And the way we're thinking about this on a larger scale with just this grade book, or I should say standards-based tracker, student growth tracker, is basically you're tagging these questions to standards or skills over time. And so let's say that those 50 questions, that's for a total of 200 points. Let's say a student has earned 40 out of those 200 points that you've awarded to that standard or skill. So that red color means that it's below a certain percentage. And we're thinking of by default setting those percentages to perhaps 66% and below being red, 80% or below 80% being yellow, and green being above 80%. And so, but at the same time, we've been talking to a lot of teachers, and teachers define those colors by different things. Like as we've seen, just talking with Angela and Joe, and so down the line, we also want to provide the option to customize those ranges. And I know somebody, I think Lisa mentioned going from 1 to 4 as a scale, and so providing for that use case as well. So did you guys spot another good question we can tackle?
Well, everything that we've kind of touched on covers 2 of Lisa's questions, I believe, regarding her school using the 4 levels, and then also talking about like how are the different colors determined. Basically, with Formative, I don't know if we want to talk about that one, how are the different levels of mastery determined, maybe talking about question types and things like that. Joe, I don't know if you want to, or David, that might be the way to go next. It seems like a good segue.
Mm-hmm. So I think just reiterating on Lisa's question, the cutoffs we were thinking about were 66% and 80%, because that's what a lot of teachers are using, but adding that ability to customize. So I think this pretty much answers Rebecca's question, but obviously Rebecca or anybody else, feel free to ask another. The cool thing about Google Hangouts on Air is you'll be able to click on these questions later just to hear the responses that you want. Let's see.
I wanted to comment really quickly on Rebecca's question, or statement. It says, "This is fabulous. So within one assignment, there could be multiple standards." Correct? Yeah, absolutely. Because that's exactly what an assignment should be doing. You shouldn't be just tagging one standard, right? Within a single assignment, especially for me, for NGSS, when we're doing project-based learning, there's going to be multiple standards attached to a singular assignment, which is why this tracker is phenomenal in that aspect, because once again, we can see that even though a student is getting an A on the assignment, we can see that they're falling behind on a particular standard. So, and if the majority of your class is getting an A, but the majority of them are falling behind on a particular standard, you know exactly what to hit them up on. So, Rebecca, I love your statement, because yes, especially for me in a science class, every assignment I give should be tagged with multiple standards to show multiple modalities in a singular session. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was, or at least go to, was Holly's question on, are the students able to see their own progress within the standards? Because I think, especially on my end, student view was always a question on how are the students going to be able to view their progress. And so I think, David, you could help us out with that.
Before we get there, Angela, did you have anything you want to add on here to what Joe said for just the idea of multiple standards?
No, I mean, I think he said it perfectly in that whenever you're creating an assignment, at least, you know, especially in math, there's multiple standards that I'm assessing. So just like Joe said, you know, we get to the end of a unit or we get to the end of an assignment and they have, you know, all fours or all threes except for that one standard, and you're like, okay, well, what's going on? It's a moment to go back and reteach. It's, you know, that's what makes this tracker so powerful.
Definitely, definitely. So let's go ahead and so Joe, you were saying Holly's question right here?
Yes, Holly's question on students' view on can they track their standards as well, and maybe the way their assignment itself would look to them.
So definitely, definitely that's part of our roadmap. The idea here for people joining in is that as a teacher, you'll be able to create an assignment. Oops, that's not. Let's see, where's my other screen? Here we go. So you'll be able to create an assignment and then tag any question to a standard or skill, and then track it here in our student growth tracker. And then the idea is you'll be able to click into an individual student and see their portfolio of work. And down the road, you know, we want to do this really quickly is allow students to be able to track their own progress as well. And so, you know, the teacher, if they want, could project this, you know, hiding names, just like teachers do with the summary view or the single question view, but also allowing students to view that on their own. It's a great idea, Holly, and definitely on our roadmap. You guys have anything you want to add in there?
I use the student view a lot for number talks and for writing, and it allows for really, really, really good conversation as far as error analysis and things like that. So it is possible in the current version, and it does allow for a lot of flexibility. And David had touched on it in the beginning of the webinar. If you missed it, just, you know, it takes away from students focusing on who said what and who got what answer right or wrong, and it really just becomes more about the content and makes the learning that much more meaningful. So.
And just to quickly respond, we got a lot of questions, so I want to make sure we get to them. With Heather's question, she asked, can you explain again what you meant by first try? Do students take the same assignment more than once? So you could, if you wanted to, let's go back here, you could create an assignment and then tag it to a standard or skill and then give them the same question over again or in a different context if you want. But what I meant by first to most recent try is their first try on that standard or skill, their next try on that standard or skill, all the way to their most recent try. So it might look different across assignments, right? Like if we're doing, if we're assessing our students on the standard algorithm of long division, maybe starting out we'll have just you know, you know, we might just use 2 digit by 1 digits to divide, right? And but those numbers are going to change with every new formative you give, or a lot of teachers will do that. So you'll be able to see from the first try to the most recent try, from that classwork 5 weeks ago to yesterday. How is that student progressing? Response 1 to most recent response. Let me know if I can clarify that. But basically, what all that'll allow you to do is you'll be able to see, click into into just an individual student and see just those individual pieces of student evidence. Yeah. Let's see. Let's pick another one. How much working time do you generally? Let's see. How much working time do you generally provide before you show the work? Um, did you guys want to jump in here? Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is based on I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Well, for me, so my student once we go through the lesson, when we do our think, pair, shares, and I think my students are ready to actually attempt an assignment and they start working on it. They continue to work while I have the dashboard up and I see the answers coming in. And if I see a moment where there's quite a few students not getting a particular concept, I'll bring it up on the board and we'll stop the entire class and go over it. And we'll show examples up on the board. We'll show examples of, class, do you think this is a unacceptable answer, a good answer, or a great answer? And we'll have the students grade it. And the students will start saying that's a good answer because they have the correct answer, but they forgot to add this in. Or they'll say that's an unacceptable answer because they didn't give the correct answer and they're not really explaining themselves. So the students start to understand and grade their own work. So I don't really put a time limit on when I start showing the students their work, because I always have their work up on the screen and I'm constantly monitoring whether the kids are getting it or not getting it. I mean, it's a constant ebb and flow in my classroom. I mean, it's like it's one of those things where a stream never runs straight at the same exact speed. It's always turning and changing based upon the particular flow of the river at that moment. So I don't have a time limit on it. It's basically per class, per student, per assignment when I stop the class and start going over different aspects of the assignment.
And just to jump in, I'm gonna take it in a different way and then jump back into the way that Joe said. So if you, I'm not sure how the question was worded, but if you mean how long until we show the work up on the board for everyone, that's kind of what Joe said. If everyone is getting something wrong, we'll stop and intervene. But for me, with number talks or looking at topic sentences or paragraph writing or anything like that, I just put it up right from the beginning of when they are, when they start working. Just because there will be kids who are done in 2 seconds with number talks, and there will be kids who don't even know where to start, and it's good to see their thinking unfold and use other sources to help them with the question. So in that instance, I just put it up right from the beginning for everyone to see, and we start chatting about it. But just like Joe said, I have it up on my device constantly, and that's how I pull my groups. So if I see that, John and Kevin and whoever are getting it wrong, and it's only those 3, that's how I pull my flex group, and I say, okay, you 3 come back, meet me at the table. And then I send them back again, and I monitor what they're doing while I pull my second group for, guided math and things like that. So kind of 2 different ways to look at it, but hopefully that answered your question.
Awesome. And I just want to tackle just a couple ones to make sure we're reaching everyone out there. So Caitlin asked your mastery level. If I had to guess, green has got it, yellow is almost, red is needs work. Yeah, so that's consistent with our current color coding system, and we found that most teachers, that's how they understand it. But if you think differently, anyone out there, please let us know. We thrive on teacher feedback, and so yeah. And then another quick one. So I'm just going to go back to the tracker for a second. So yes, you will be able to search by next generation science standards. So the major ones we want to add in first are Common Core. And here's an example of that, 5th grade standards, but also next generation science standards. So we got that one. And you guys see another quick one? Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. So Rebecca here. So this isn't connected to the standards tracker, but I've had this question. Is there a way for students to organize old assignments, possibly putting them into folders or archiving? from their dashboard, since things get cluttered. So we're revamping the student dashboard, and what we're planning is that by default, the formatives a student receives will be sorted by due date. So they can really see at the top of, and we can go to a current, well, if we have time we can get there, but basically, you know, right now you're just seeing a list as Rebecca points out, but you'll, with our new version, you'll be able to see by default assignments by due date at the very top, and then be able to, and the student will be able to sort those assignments by class and possibly by the type of assignment as well. So we're also going to have more webinars too, where we'll just be showing sneak peeks of things like this. I got to tell you guys though, I'm really excited for students just to keep on top of formatives with our new student dashboard. Let me know if I can add on to that at all. But let's see. Yeah, so you will be able to archive. Students will be able to archive them, just seeing the assignments that are relevant to them. If you guys have follow-up questions, feel free to ask them. And so, did you guys see another good question we could get at? And if anyone has any out there, feel free to post it.
I really quickly want to talk about Lisa's question on showing the kids work. You know, how do you know when a kid gets it? Rather than copying. I like on the board when the students are actually doing the work, I put it on the student tracker where it has the kids' names and then it shows which assignment or which question they're on. I call that kind of the horse race view. So you can see the kids going through and where they're at on a particular question. I like to do,
just to pause, sorry. Which question were you referring to? I want to make sure it gets recorded for.
It was I don't see it there anymore. There was a question that said, how do you know if students are actually getting it rather than just copying what's on the board? Oh, there it is.
Got it. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem.
Go ahead.
So I show the horse race view where it just shows the kids what question they're on and whether they're getting it right or wrong. And for myself, you're not really seeing whether they got it right or wrong at that moment because most of our science questions are short answer questions, not multiple choice, so it's not going to be instantly graded that way. But it does show me where each student is in the class. But then I like to do a split screen. So I have on the big screen, I have the horse race view, and then on my computer itself, I have the actual student answers view. And so when I start going through and I start seeing answers coming in and I start seeing the students are not answering to the best of their ability, then I show the students all the different answers coming in. And especially on the big board, it's hard to actually read individual student answers when it's on that huge, massive all students view. It's only when I click on it and explode it to a larger view that the students can actually read it, and that's when we actually go over it as a class. So I haven't seen any of my students waiting for an answer on the board and then type it. I haven't seen that occur in my class. Is that a possible? Could that possibly happen in somebody's class? Absolutely, and that'd be on a teacher-student basis. But for me, just the horse race view to see the class progress, and then on my individual screen, the answers coming in itself to kind of catch unacceptable, good, and then great work. That's the way that I do it, just so I know that students aren't just copying from the board.
So for me, anytime that I have student work up on the board, it's to have a conversation. It's not to assess. It's not to grade them. It's not to, it's for us to have a conversation around content and around each other's work. Anytime that I'm looking to see individually if they got it, it would be when they're doing their in-class work on Formative that I can see on my screen and am then flex grouping. So with number talks, I'm not looking to see if one person got it and one person didn't, just because those are typically PBLs or more challenging or things like that. Those are just for, just to genuinely have conversations in my classroom. Again, like Joe said, that's more on a case-by-case basis, but if they are cheating and looking at other answers and things like that, I'm not really assessing them on it. It's more to just have conversation and for students to be present and hear other students' thoughts on how they got to the answer and hear that conversation around content. And then if they're not understanding, that's demonstrated through their in-class work, and then I meet with them on a one-on-one basis, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so just from my perspective, just to echo what Angela is saying as well, for me, it would really be about just creating that culture where it's not a focus on who does what or what's right or wrong necessarily, but just really taking a deeper look at those individual student responses. And so students, we found from teachers we've talked to, it's really sort of shifted the culture. I was talking to a teacher today. Before, the students really cared about, like, I got it right or wrong and that's it. But really, the classroom culture shifted to, what is Jillian doing? What is Jimmy Noodles doing? Right? Like, what's Jon Snow doing? And how can I learn from that, whether it's mistake or a strategy? So sure, it's possible students could copy each other's work, but this formative I've seen really help shift the culture to not focusing on that and more about what is actually being shown, what is actually being learned. Let's see. Holly, we got another question from Holly here. So I'm new at this, so this is a beginner question. If I have GoFormative on my iPad connected to the active board, can I switch back and forth with that and my laptop for the curriculum? I want to use GoFormative on my iPad at the same time as my laptop. So I read it out loud, but I got to digest it for a second. If you guys want to jump in there.
Holly, I do the exact same thing. So I have maybe the horse race or student progress view up on the board, just so I can monitor that. But then I also use my iPad as I'm circulating the room, looking at individual student responses or individual question responses. So I don't see any problem with using the laptop and using the iPad at the same time. Now, if you wanted to, like, take what was on your iPad and then shoot it up to the screen, you'd have to use something like Doceri or some screen mirroring program with Apple TV or something like that. But for the purposes I think you're asking, yeah, you can show one view up on your laptop while you're circulating the room with another view on your iPad. So I've been doing that this entire year, and I haven't seen any problems with that at all.
Yeah, I know. I think Peter Ritchie, one of our great teachers, what he does is he's got, like, the live responses on the board, the summary view. So we can't see the summary view here, but basically he'll show. I think, just using this example, he'll project the live responses on the board, and then he'll be carrying around his own phone, right? And there he'll see those same responses, except in a summary view. So we can quickly, I don't know if we can go in here, but see a quick example. Actually, let's see. Angela, if you have anything to add in there, feel free. I just don't want, they're just clicking on things right now. Basically, then he'll have the summary view up so that he can also have that second view into the student work. There we go. Here we go. Sorry for the wait, guys, but there it is. So in his hand, he'll have those individual student responses or the summary view, as you see here, for grouping and differentiation. And then on the board, he'll have the other view. So awesome. Looks like there's a question for you, Angela. So let's.
I saw that. So Heather, to answer your question, we're a paperless district, so we don't have. Let me rephrase. We're trying to get away from paper. So yes, I have my kids show me their work on the Formative itself. Not sure how familiar you are with Formative, so I'll just talk a little bit about the question format. Essentially, there is a show your work portion, so they'll get the question put up on their Formative, and then they'll be able to show their work on something similar to a whiteboard. We also have, in my classroom, I painted the tops of our tables with whiteboard paint. So for any of my kiddos that do not want to show their work on Formative, I allow them to write it on the whiteboard table and take a picture and upload it. That takes away from the live response feature, and I have very few kiddos that do that, and the kids that do that, I know who they are, and I'm able to check on them or have them sit with me to do a couple first. But no, they don't show their work on a separate sheet of paper and turn it in. They literally show everything on their Formative, and I can see them doing their work. So, for example, if on question 1, I'm watching Nathan do something completely unrelated to what we're learning, I'm like, hey Nathan, come back here. Let's chat. Let's go through what we're doing. Send him back to his seat. He goes on to question 2. I see that he's got it right. He can keep going on his own. So that's kind of how it works in my math classroom, and I'd be happy to chat with you about how we do the in-class flip, because there's a lot of other paired tools that I use as well to make that happen.
And if I could jump in there as well, Heather, I work with a lot of math teachers in my district as well, and I've been showing them Formative because of what Angela was saying about, they can show their work and you can instantly see it happening as they're writing. The power of that is it's not when they're done with the work and hit submit. While they're writing, you see their work and you can see where they're heading off course. And what I used to have my math teachers do is they'd have the same question twice. It would show you work on this problem, and then the next question would be write your final answer for that problem. But now, Formative now has the option in the upcoming release where on the same question they can show their work and give their final answer. So you don't have to do the 2-question tiering. So being able to show their work on Formative rather than on a piece of paper, so you as the instructor can monitor this from anywhere in the room, for math, I think is one of the most powerful things that we can have, because a lot of my math teachers say, I want to see them show their work. I don't want a multiple choice question. And Formative allows you to see exactly their work that they're doing right on their computer screen.
Definitely. We got a quick follow-up question for Angela here from Heather, but just wanted to be respectful of everyone's time. We're going to 6 o'clock, and I'll definitely be around to answer more questions after that. But just really quickly, if you're planning on sharing, there we go. If you're planning on sharing Formative, if you want to share it with your colleagues, since you've been using it, or if you're new to it and just want to explore more, we've got this PD pack, which is really just, rather than just like, this is how you do this, this, this. Yes, it has that, but it really gets into why teachers are using it, on top of what Angela and Joe have mentioned. You can request swag to share with those you present to as well. Sorry for that little break, but getting back to that follow-up question for Angela, if you want to respond to that.
Sure. No, my kids did not have iPads last year. They were one-to-one MacBook in 5th grade. They will be getting iPads this year. And I'm kind of seeing where you might be going as far as like, okay, well, how do they draw, or how do they do that with a mouse? Or honestly, a lot of them all of them didn't have a problem with it, and any ones that did were my IEP kids who I did, like I said, allow them to do it on the whiteboard table. But all of them really liked it, and they liked that I could see what they were doing, because you can also send feedback to your students from your table. So I'd be with a group, and we'll use a different name, Sam would be doing something, not quite right, and I'd send him a message and say, ooh, try that again. Can we reduce, kind of thing. Same thing when I'm at a conference. I can respond to them during math, and I'm not even there, and they love that, and it creates that buy-in as well. So the iPads weren't necessary as far as finger capabilities and things like that, but yeah.
All right. Did you guys spot another good question? Let's see here. Lisa, you got a lot of great questions. And yeah, if you're just joining us as well, feel free to ask another question. Let's just take this top one here. This would be a great way to do tasks. If I were to do a task, would I be able to assign standards to each question? And yes, definitely. So I think this is good to come back to. Is for any question, you'll be able to tag it to a standard or skill. And so over assignments, over the course of time, you'll be able to see student progress on that standard or skill. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then we got another question here. When do you anticipate being able to assign the percentages to each color? And so we really want to just lay down the fundamentals first for as quickly as possible, but from there we want to give teachers the ability to customize, right? And from the get-go with our newest version, we want to give the ability to customize. And so, yeah, in the very near future, you'll be able to customize a lot of things. All right, so we got one from Holly. So when is the new version coming out? And so we're working on it. Basically, we want to have this ready for teachers to use as quickly as possible. So for this school year. And I guess the reason I'm hesitating to say an exact date is because we're humans, and we're a team, and there's things we can run into in terms of just developing things. And so it's a constant work in progress, but rest assured that this is our main focus, just really bringing things to the next level as quickly as possible. Let's see. Okay, we got a couple more questions here. All right, so Lisa, just to follow up once again with the 4 levels that a lot of schools use for standards mastery, we want to provide that customization as quickly as possible. And so we got one more here. If you're using it to track progress and they can all see the work from the get-go. Okay, we got this one already. I think we answered this one already, but just to reiterate, really when we're projecting live responses, we find that the culture shifts from who's got it right or wrong to students really thinking about each other's work and not just copying each other, but really just taking a deeper look at just strategies and misconceptions their peers are using. So, and that's the last question we have so far, and we're about to hit the 6 o'clock special time. Yeah, this has been awesome. Angela and Joe, do you guys have any any final thoughts for everyone out there?
Really good conversation. Thank you guys for jumping in and asking, and I'd be happy to follow up with anyone that has questions about integrating formative or apprehensions about using formative. I will say that you just kind of have to jump in and be afraid to, and don't be afraid to try new things. But if anyone's interested in following up, I'd be happy to chat with anyone.
How about you, Joe?
I just want to say for teachers who are listening to this, not to worry about their devices. I mean, our school that we use Formative in, we're a BYOD school, so it's bring your own device. So we have kids using Formative right off their iPhones, their Android devices, a Chromebook, MacBook, PCs. I even have some old computers that people were going to throw away, and I put on some Linux, and it works perfectly fine. So don't think that this is only for schools that have one-to-one iPads or one-to-one PCs or one-to-one Chromebooks.
Mm-hmm.
This is for any school, any teacher who just wants to elevate their students to the next level and turn good students into great students and just really elevate your game as an educator.
Awesome. And we had one last question here. And I think this is, thanks for reminding us. But basically, beauty of the Google Hangout on air is that, yes, anybody can come back and check it out later. And actually, you know, we've been answering questions. You'll be able to click on the questions. So if you're looking here, you'll be able to click on questions on the right, and just to see that snippet of our time together. But yeah, so in terms of I just want to make sure I click on this, but in terms of sharing this webinar with others, we'll be sure to blast this out over Twitter. But yeah, so you're just gonna copy this link, or the link that we sent you, the same, and then also post it up here right now. Basically, you can share this with others to watch. And so just you can grab that link and share it with everyone that you think be interested. So about it. But thank you so much, everyone out there, for joining us, and especially Angela and Joe. Thank you for offering your perspectives. You guys are awesome, and
Thank you. We're definitely happy to do it. It's an awesome product. Can't say it enough. So awesome tool.
all right. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off here, but thank you so much, guys. Everyone out there as well. Please let us know if you have any questions and your thoughts too.
Good night.
All right. See you. Bye.
Night.